72-й день війни? 80. 80-й день в суботу.
Значит, 82. Мне сделалось, что сказал 72. Да, 80.
Зворотній відповідь.
Я не буду говорити, я сказав хвилину. Немає. Можна перевірити. Перевірити.
Добрий день. З вами
Good morning, I'm Olga Tamanova. Our team of Media Center Ukraine, Ukrinform, welcomes you here. And right now in our studio we have Vadym Denysenko, advisor to the Minister of Internal Affairs and director of the Institute for the Future. We will be talking about the research carried out by the Institute represented here by Vadym, and namely it's about changes in Russian elites. Vadym, please tell us about that. And what do those changes mean, changes of governors we will all see in the aggressor country? Good morning, dear friends, dear colleagues. Basically, Ukrainian Institute of the Future started its weekly analysis of everything which is happening in the Russian Federation. Every Friday we provide information about changes in all areas of life of the Russian Federation, starting from changes in their elites to socio-economic changes, changes in the cultural life, and various preferences of Russians. Why do we need it? Because we need to know our enemy. We have to understand what is going there, not to be captured by certain myths. And those myths often, unfortunately, are produced in our social network, not only ours, but also in foreign social networks. So, what interesting thing we have to share with you. Before discussing changes of governors and what do those mean, why during the week 5 governors voluntarily resigned, I'd like to say that we have carried out a special research. Where do Russian soldiers mostly die? Soldiers from which regions mostly die? And actually, there is quite interesting correlation there. first position, according to Russian official data, is held by Buryatia. They have 99 dead soldiers per 100,000 population. Then there is Tivat, motherland of Sergei Shoigu, 77, 87 in Northern Ossetia, Alania, 74, Sevastopol, 47, in Pskov Oblast, in Altai Republic, in the Baikalsk area, 45 per 100,000 each. Dagestan and Maryel, 43 persons per 100,000 population. So basically, we could discuss why those numbers are higher or lower in various places, but that doesn't mean. The most important thing is where there is the least, the lowest number of deaths. That number is the most important for us. What Putin is mostly fears. The lowest number of deaths is in Yamal-Nenetsk autonomous area, but it's quite, it's very probable that because of many circumstances and because of the very low number of population in that area, that district, there are even no combat participants from that district. It may be. But on the second position, there is the city of Moscow, where there is 0.23 dead per 100,000. The third lowest position is by St. Petersburg, 2 dead people per 100,000 population. To say it simple, Russian Federation does everything possible so that in Moscow and St. Petersburg, in the key cities where there were all revolutions in Russian Empire and then later in Soviet time, so that in those cities they would not have any rebels, so that in those cities nobody would notice the war as such. The key thing, based on all information, the key task of Russia is to prevent any riot from happening in Moscow or St. Petersburg, to prevent people from discussing war there, to prevent people from feeling some discomfort because of those burial ceremonies there in those mega policies, those mega cities. Now, before switching to governors as such, another very important aspect for us is about the fact that during the last 2 months, according to official data, which have already been published in the Russian Federation, the level of confidence to TV as the main source of information has dropped by 10%. Before February 24, 33% of Russians believed that the main source of information is TV. Now it's just 23%. So actually this is because of huge impact of war and efforts of all Ukrainians and all our information army, so to say, which was explaining to the Russians what is happening, that there are deaths, that there are problems. It doesn't mean that there are any riots starting in Russia. It doesn't mean that in Russia they start going against Putin. We have to clearly understand that the first 3 months of war in any country worldwide, during any period of human history, in any case, people would support actions of their leadership, be it in the aggressor country and in the country which is defending itself. After the first 3 months, adrenaline is exhausted and just routine life resumes, and there are certain changes in attitude towards many processes. Russians start trust TVs less, and they trust more Telegram channels and other sources of information. It means that some part of the people start understanding that the government is telling lies to them. They're not telling the truth to their people, and that's a very positive impact of our information resistance against Russian Federation. Of course, we should not stop at that. We have to understand that in the future we have to increase our pressure so that in Russian Federation more and more people would understand that they're told lies. I'd like to emphasize that our task of our information resistance, our information war, is not about calling anybody for revolution. There will be no revolution in Russian Federation in the nearest future. Don't believe there would be revolution. Don't spend efforts on that. Our key task is to act in such a way that they would understand that the government is telling them lies about the war in Ukraine, so that they would not want any mobilization. Our key task is to prevent any opportunity for Putin to mobilize Russians to war against Ukraine. Now, finally, about changes in governors. 5 governors have been replaced in Russian Federation. We can clearly note that 4 of them were, so to say, paratroopers who like jumped from other regions. They're replaced by the same paratroopers in quotation marks. Those are people from different regions. They're not people from the same regions where they become governors. So it's completely in line with the trend we see in Russian Federation since approximately 2 years ago, when the government, the Putin started like cleansing regional elites in Russia. But what is important now? Important thing is that all those newly appointed governors are so-called technocrats. In Russian Federation, big changes started in their elites. Now those changes are not that visible, but by and large we can say by now that the group of so-called group of Kazakh, group of Dmitro Kazakh, as we call it, those were people responsible for Ukrainian matters, not just Ukrainian matters, but border matters, neighborhood matters for Russian Federation. That group of Kazakh, if not disappeared, it has lost any influence by now. At the moment, we cannot say that there is any, say, supervisor to replace that Kazakh, although many media had said that Serhiy Kiriyenko became a supervisor for Donbass, and not only Donbass. But in fact, at the moment, the role of Serhiy Kiriyenko is this. He has come here to inspect. And here in Kherson Oblast and in occupied territories of Donbass, Kiriyenko had to get some understanding for Putin what is going on there, because after those territories in the recent years were managed by Dmitry Kazakh, and after there was that failure during the first stage of the war, Putin realized that he did not understand what's going on in Ukraine. And now Kiriyenko plays a stronger role because of that. He becomes a person who delivers information to Putin about whatever is going in Ukraine. At the same time, we have to say that Kiriyenko is one of the leaders of so-called technocratic group in Russian Federation. This group includes Novak, this group includes Gref. We can also count chairman of the central bank, Nabiulina, as part of that group. This group does not have any clear leader. This group is not clearly oriented towards one leader, but anyway, they are so-called technocrats. Speaking about Kiriyenko as such, he is one of those so-called methodologists, but now all those people who have been appointed are from that technocrat group. Those people were close to Novak, Gref or Kiriyenko at some point in time, and at the same time we should also pay attention to the fact that because of sharp weakening or even disappearance of Dmitry Kazakh's group, there has been also certain weakening of the group of Sechin, chairman of Rosneft. And indirectly, by the way, an important aspect here is this. Say, previous Minister of Finance of the Russian Federation, of Economy of the Russian Federation, Lukayev, was dismissed before term. He is personally close to Kiriyenko, and he is a personal enemy of Igor Sechin. So, of course, now to say that there is some tectonic change, tectonic shift in Russian elite, we cannot say that. But we can say that the technocrat group, and especially Kiriyenko, become get certain weight. Say they become definitive for all areas of life and international policies and defense. They become responsible, at least at the moment we can expect that they may become responsible for policies in occupied territories of not only Ukraine but also Moldova and Georgia. And in that way we can say that this group starts getting certain not just political agencies and political influence mechanisms, but it becomes at the same level gets to the same level as some previous generation groups which came to power with Putin 22 years ago. That's briefly what's happening in Russian elites. We cannot say that they started war against each other and that somebody would try to remove Putin, and we should not say that. We cannot say that, we should not say that, but the fact that one of the young groups becomes is getting that agency, that weight, it's worth noting, and it will definitely result in some conflicts in some gray areas of Russian policy. Thank you. Vadym, could you please tell us, Russian liberal media says that one of the reasons for that replacement of governors is the fact that those governors got very few votes during the last elections. Do you agree with that? You know, this is one of the reasons, but to say that the only reason is that somebody got a few votes when they are dismissed, that's not true. Because there were governors who got even fewer votes at the elections and they were not dismissed. And basically we also saw cases where some people who got a very high percentage of votes could also be dismissed, especially that now in Russia there is some discussion in a very serious way about stopping those elections of governors as such. Also, one question is, recently we heard the statement about our intelligence that not only Putin is sick, but also that there have been some processes in place which will result in some changes. Have you investigated into this matter? Well, whether Putin is sick or not, I cannot investigate that. But if we are talking about changes in elites, I'll try and tell you about those. Actually, we can say that one group has basically left their positions, and the remaining of those groups who are oriented towards Sechin have been much weaker. On the other hand, there was so-called technocrat groups which has become higher, but that technocrat groups does not have one leader, as I already said. They work together, but in many cases they are each for their own. So we can just say that they became higher and they got some agencies, they got some weight, some mechanisms by Sergei Kirienko. He is a person who gets some confidence from Putin and he shares information. Colleagues, any questions? You're welcome. Ukrinform. Thank you. I'm Vitaly Golod from Ukrinform. I have two sets of questions. Could you please tell us, Russian polittechnologists tell us, Galyamov said that previously changing governors was in order to provide people some hope for changes in their respective regions. But now, he said, it's about rats leaving the sinking ship. But in September, there should be elections in 14 regions, including those 5 regions where their governors lost their positions. Why have they lost? Are they just rats, or why haven't they waited until September? So they are pushed. Are they rats, or have those 5 have been pushed? Definitely they're not rats. Definitely this is a decision which was regulated by somebody. Definitely those people will appear in some other positions anyway. This was a decision from Moscow, so that later it would be easier to run elections, or the other way around, to do everything possible to get a decision that there will be no direct elections of governors there. So in this case, this is in no way about anybody fleeing, and it's not about demonstrations. Those things have been clearly sanctioned from Moscow. They were told you have to submit your resignation, and they, like soldiers, obeyed and wrote those submissions. You know, rats fleeing in 5 regions, different regions at the same time, no, it doesn't happen. So definitely it was from Moscow, by Moscow decision. To my question, I'm separately interested in Sverdlovsk Oblast because of that attack of media attack of Vladimir Solovyov against Sverdlov Oblast and that response from their elites. Will there be anything in Sverdlovsk? Will anything interesting happen there in September during those elections? It's too early to discuss it, but to be honest, at the moment, you know, to say that because of Solovyov going against somebody in Sverdlovsk Oblast and somebody responding to him, you know, this is just a piece of political show there in Russia. Let's not forget that during the last month we were saying quite a lot about some arguments between Kadyrov and Peskov, between Peskov and a number of other people, and even Medvedev was there, for example. Actually, whatever strange it may sound, but this is a public discussion sanctioned by Vladimir Putin, allowed by Vladimir Putin. So this is Stalin style, when certain groups are permitted, say certain hawks or those peaceful birds, they discuss against each other in public, so that later it would be possible to run opinion polls, focus groups, sociology studies, in order to develop proper decisions, proper from Russian Federation's perspective, from Putin's perspective, to keep the power and to resolve many issues. So actually, look how rhetorics have changed about occupied territories. First of all, Kherson Oblast. Even 1 month ago, it seemed almost decided that there would be annexation of those territories. Now they're talking about a referendum which will take place, say, maybe on the 11th of September. We understand that this 11th of September is just a tentative and maybe symbolic date for Russians, because that's 11th of September, 9/11. But as of now, they don't have any decision already made. They have discussions running among their elites what to do about it, because there is one group which is for annexation, the other group is saying that we have created some sort of, say, Novorossiya, another Novorossiya, and join it to that Soviet Union #2, because this is their key task. And finally, the third group is saying that no annexation should be done, because then Russia will leave the room of free room in negotiations with somewhere. So this is item of discussions which are sometimes allowed in Russian Federation. Whatever strange it may sound, they do have discussions sometimes. I have a question about Ukraine. What do you think? What are further plans for Russian Federation about Azovstal steel factory? And what do you think? Where will be the hottest spot in the next stage of the war against Russia? Look, about Azovstal, everything is clear. Basically, unfortunately, their only task is to take Azovstal. There is no other mode of operation. So, even with all those efforts and super efforts, so to say, by our president and all our diplomats and relatives and near ones of those fighting in Azovstal. Unfortunately, now it's just about the personal decision of Putin not to change anything there. About the hotspots in the nearest future, now and in the next days, the main hotspot will be Severodonetsk, and all main military actions of the Russian Federation have been focused there. They will try to make so-called small siege. They wanted to have a big siege for all our group of troops in Donbass. That's become unrealistic, especially after our counteroffensive in north and northeast of Kharkiv Oblast. So now they will focus on Severodonetsk. Basically, yesterday we already saw that some bridges have been blown up near Severodonetsk. I think that they will fail. They will not be able to do anything, but the quota spot will be there. Thank you, Mr. Denysenko, for joining us. I'd like to remind you that we had Vadym Denysenko with us, advisor to the Ministry of Internal Affairs and director of the Ukrainian Institute of the Future. And then 1:30 p.m. we'll have Evgen Sosnovsky with us, a photographer from Mariupol who spent 62 days